Hey everybody, today I'm going to begin reviewing the entirety of Coldplay's main album catalog, starting with their debut in 2000, Parachutes. Let's begin. The album kicks off with a wonderfully paced and somewhat mellow slow burner, Don't Panic, a strong starter that encapsulates the very intimate sonic vibe that this whole record has going for it. The lyrics on this one are some of the best in the whole album, in fact. For example, the mood derived from the phrase bones sinking like stones and others contribute meaningfully to what seems to be a very deliberate sense of rhythm, one which echoes throughout the rest of the album. From this, we move on to Shiver, a song which kickstarts the more energetic side of the album with its rising opening that gives way to these very showering guitar tones that are well backed by loose drumming, shout out to Will Champion, and Chris Martin's possessive vocal prowess. The track defines a good contrast between the two sectors of the album, the somewhat depressive lull and a romantic overtaking, which thankfully merge quite well. After Shiver, we unfortunately find ourselves in the position of the song Spies. I'm not a fan of this one. It slows the pace down to a crawl to deliver a very immersive and well-meaning, but ultimately dull song, which disengages me in a way that the other tracks manage mostly to avoid. Lyrically, it's a bit plain too, which doesn't mesh with some of the more down-tempo and intimate lyrics on much of the rest of this thing. Luckily though, we're saved by one of my favorites on the album. Sparks is a point where the record really dives deeper into its more affectionate, cozy side. Great track, really picks up nicely from where Don't Panic left off. And similar to Don't Panic, Sparks is followed by something a bit more lively to round things out. Yellow is a really enjoyable and romantic track that backs it up with engaged instrumental deliveries and lyrics which are, at least to me, very simple feeling, very oblique, and luckily very sincere. Surprisingly powerful. Another great track. After this, we actually get even better with Trouble, a very creeping, intensive point where I feel as if I'm about to get eaten by some sweet-talking monster. Despite the feelings of being trapped, the instrumental is very loose, very hazy. The piano riff is utterly enchanting, and Chris's vocals back it up quite nicely. Likely my favorite track on the record. We get a bit of a breather with a song that's more lax in its presentation. The short Parachutes, an interlude which, despite its length, manages to feel needed in the context of the tonal shift this album is about to undergo. After this, we feel somewhat of a merger between the heavier, more intimate aspects of Parachutes and its more energetic side. High Speed isn't a track I'm particularly fond of, and is somewhat mechanically weaker towards the middle, where it sags. Still very well produced, however, and the lyrical change that goes from "Can anybody fly this thing?" to "Can anybody stop this thing?" is a nice touch, one which exemplifies themes of a sort of helplessness. The song We Never Change cranks the very personal vibe that this album has going for it up to an 11. It's very well paced and the lyrics are very genuine, but on top of that it does little to maintain itself aesthetically, and is unfortunately another track on this album which sort of limply holds itself together. We end on a pleasing note, however, with the final main track on this thing, Everything's Not Lost. The song delicately sets up a quiet and somewhat simple, but ultimately very well-meaning and very charming anthem, which puts everything in its place quite nicely. And the final cherry on top is the quasi-hidden track, Life is for Living. This one acts as the mission statement for the album, and it caps it off quite well with a sort of reed instrument. I've been told it's a synthesizer. It makes the whole thing feel very final. And in a sense, it really is. Coldplay would never be the same sad group after this album was eclipsed by the bold and rather adventurous A Rush of Blood to the Head. But part of its beauty is that it's understated, that it's satisfied to sit in the corner and do its own thing. I respect that, and I think that even the low points of the album are held together very well with the high in respect to tone, pacing, and building atmosphere. While it doesn't always work for me, I think this album shows the potential that this band has to become something more meaningful, and for that, it'll always have a soft spot in my heart. I'm feeling a 72. Good job, Coldplay. So what do you guys think of this thing? Let me know down in the comments. If there are any records you'd like to see reviewed by me, feel free to ask. And if you like this content, consider subscribing and hitting that bell for more of it. In any case, thanks for your time, and have a great day.